Hi guys, I'm Aussie Villain. Welcome to episode 3 of the Liverpool versus Manchester City through the league's experiments. Now, when we left off, they had both just been promoted into League 2 out of the Conference National, and that was Manchester City as champions, Liverpool through the playoffs. So we're now in League 2. We can see them both there, 10th and 11th. Not a game has been played as of yet. If we have a quick look at the season preview, Manchester City are favourites, Liverpool are evens. Plymouth is only 4-1. That's quite good. I imagine they'd be thrilled to be that close to the two of them. We can see the team of the year. It's all Manchester City plus Salah. Not surprising there. But if we do remember, Liverpool were having to start to sell players off. Manchester City, not so much. So what we'll have to do here is we'll get through to the end of the transfer window. Now they're in the Football League. There will, of course, be a transfer window that ends early on in the year for them. We'll go through to that, and let's see what they do in terms of what they have done in terms of transfers for their League 2 campaigns. Okay, we're now at September 1st. Liverpool and Manchester City have already played. Manchester City won at Liverpool 1-0. So, a scene has been set there, I think, hasn't it? Let's go and have a look at Manchester City. Let's first off just have a look at their finances. It still says they're rich. They still have that worldwide reputation. They are, of course, in the Europa League, having won the FA Cup as a Vanarama National League club. Let's have a look at the transfers that they've made. And they've sold £92 million worth of player and bought 65. Any major departures here? They own Edison to Chelsea is a big one, isn't it? So they have sold their goalkeeper. Anyone else here? Kyle Walker. Now, Kyle Walker will be getting on a little bit now with the 30, but that's still, they probably ideally would like to keep him. Gundogan has gone to Liverpool. So Liverpool have snapped up a few of their younger players as well, haven't they? Douglas Luiz is one of their younger ones. A couple have gone out on loan. But they have sold some players, but other than Edison, I don't think there's anything there that they would really be disappointed. I'm sure Kyle Walker they would have liked to have kept, but otherwise, they've done okay. Now, who have they got in? They've got Jordan Jones. They spent money on Alisson, so they've replaced Edison with Alisson. So, all they've really done there is they've made, a couple of £1 million. They're starting for 33, signed for 23. So they've made £10 million and weakened Liverpool, basically. We'll see if Liverpool signed anybody. Otherwise, there's not really any names there that ring a bell. So maybe the purse strings are tightening a little bit. But I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about there for Manchester City. And if we have a look at Liverpool, let's have a look at their finances here. They are still considered rich. Now, as I said, they have sold a lot of players recently. It's going to be the wages without the Premier League money that sort of is the thing there, isn't it? Now, my tip's gone. They've sold Karius. Anybody else there? Shaqiri has left. They've sold £136 million worth of player again. Naby Keita's left. Van Dijk has left. That could hurt them. Patrick Roberts has left. Fabinho has left. So they have sold off a little bit of players this year, haven't they? They're starting to lose sort of their team. They've signed Bakuna. Now, as a Villa fan, I can tell you, League 1, League 2, maybe, but anything above that, you'd be struggling. Gundogan, yeah, Tim Closer. So they're starting to sign players now. Bernard Mensah as well. They're starting to sign players that are perhaps... they're going to be lesser players, aren't they? But it's not ideal for them, I wouldn't have thought. They are already out of the Carabao Cup. They lost to Tranmere. Now, Tranmere are... what are they? They are League 2 as well. So that's going to hurt them, isn't it? Let's have a quick look at their squad. You can see, look at this, the big earning players are... there's still some big earning players there, don't get me wrong. But there's definitely a lot less of them than there was to start with, wasn't there? Look at that. They've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players on over 100 grand a week, and then there's a big drop-off. Good players still, and like I say, it's League 2. They're not gonna struggle, but... they are definitely starting to penny pinch a little bit more than I think Manchester City are. Manchester City, they lost the Community Shield. They haven't been in the Carabao Cup yet, of course, because they're in Europe. So that they'll have a bye for the first few rounds there. If we go but look at their team, they have still a number of players on over 100 grand. They have a number of players on over 300 grand a week. So they still have that money from the Champions League, 2 years, a year extra than Liverpool did. Why does Aguero want to leave? Doesn't really say. It's Daniel Lozani is playing for them. Go on. Yeah, so it's getting interesting now. You can see the squads are a lot smaller than when they started too, aren't they? Anyway, guys, what we'll do is we'll skip through to the end of the January transfer window. We'll see how Manchester City got on in Europe, and yeah, if they've been able to strengthen or further weaken between now and then. Alright, it's now February 1st, and we can see Liverpool are top, but they've lost 3 games. They've also lost to Carlisle, as well as losing both games to Manchester City, which is... I mean, Carlisle, they were way back, but they're the 3rd best team in the league right now, so that's worrying signs there for Liverpool, I think. They've also had a draw against Leyton Orient. Now, City's also had a draw against Stevenage. Now, this is the first time we've really seen we've seen either of them drop points to someone other than each other. So that's interesting in of itself, but Manchester City, they're, 9 points back with 6 games in hands. They should be quite comfortable in terms of winning the league for this year, yet again over Liverpool. But the finances kind of suggest that, don't they? Now let's go and have a quick look here. Let's have a quick look at the finances. They're still a rich club. Let's have a look at the schedule. Are they still in Europe? Are they still in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, of course, as well? Let's have a look here. Did they get out of their group? Carabao Cup, they're in the semi-finals. They won the semi-finals, so they do have... okay, so we can see here they have a Carabao Cup final coming up against Manchester United. They're still in the FA Cup and they are still in the Europa League as well, with a decent enough chance there to go through, you would imagine, against Braga of Portugal. So things are still going well for Manchester City. Did the transfer window mean anything to them? They signed 2 more players, someone from Sampdoria, someone from Villarreal, so that's interesting, and also a player from Watford. Did they sell anybody else? They did. Otamendi left for Lyon, and Andrew Robinson, who they signed, of course, from Liverpool, he went off to Watford, which is interesting. Again, that shows that they're losing players to clubs that you would think, Manchester City, even though they're in League Two, is sort of a better club, a bigger club than Watford. But that's because the league they're playing in, I'm sure at this point, that is why they're losing. They're losing players there. The other 2, or the other ones that went out there, don't think they're major ones, not by the transfer fees anyway. Nothing that they would be worried too much about, I would think. Now Liverpool are starting to. I'm starting to wonder. They're going to lose Wijnaldum there to Milan. I'm starting to wonder with Liverpool if not having the Premier League money is starting to bite them a little bit. Now, where are they in terms of the cups? They've been knocked out of the FA Cup by Tottenham in the 4th round, so they just have the league to concentrate on. They've been knocked out of the Checkatrade Trophy as well, which doesn't really matter to them, I guess. But interesting things there. Transfers, they signed a player from Aston Villa, Jake Cooper. He is a defender. I'm really annoyed I had left the masking of attributes on. Did they sell anybody? Oh, Mo Salah has left the club. They've sold and Herbie Kane. I think that's Harry's younger brother. But Mo Salah has left. They've sold £198 million worth of players again, but they're running out of players to sell now. They are rapidly running out of players to sell. Riyad Mahrez still has some value there. Let's have a look at the values here. Benjamin Mendy, Gundogan, Douglas Luiz. They've lost Wijnaldum for nothing. Outside, then they're losing the big money players that they can sell. So what we'll do is we'll skip through to the end of the year now. What I assume will happen is that City will run away with the league. Liverpool will come second. Liverpool's they're going to get promoted, aren't they? But it's going to be fascinating to see how Liverpool go from here. Are they going to drop any more points? We'll find out in just a second. Okay, welcome back. Now, as expected, Manchester City have won comfortably, invincible, but they did drop more points. They drew 5 games this year, which is that's the first time we've seen them drop points. And Liverpool, they drew in 3, they've lost 2, they lost 2 to Crawley and Carlisle, so teams other than Manchester City. And again, it's the first time we've seen them, I think, or did they have a draw last year? But it's the first time we've really seen either of these 2 teams drop points. They've gone up very, very comfortably, don't get me wrong. But, they're just starting to show signs that, they're getting to some difficulty, let's say. It hasn't been the complete cruise that we've seen. Now, interesting, finances only secure now at Manchester City. I do wonder if their ownership is going to sort of keep bailing them out. But let's have a look here now. They lost the Carabao Cup on penalties. So they haven't got to Europe through that. Did they get to... Now, they lost in the FA Cup semi-final again to Manchester United, which means they're out of that. Did they get into the Europa League final? They did. So we'll have to come back in a couple of days' time and see if they of course win this final against Sevilla, they will be back in the Champions League. If they lose the final, they are out of Europe altogether, and that would be a big shift, wouldn't it? So that is a massive game. We will come back and see how that plays out. And now let's have a quick look at Liverpool and see what they ended up doing. Now, we kind of already knew they were out of all the cups, didn't we? So there's not going to be anything there. Did they end up winning the Checker Trade Trophy? No, they didn't, is the answer there. They lost to Nottingham Forest under 23s. And we knew they'd lost in the FA Cup 4-3 round already. So, okay, so the points they dropped were towards the end when they didn't really have anything to play for. The only thing really now, and it is absolutely massive, is do Manchester City win the Europa League? We'll come back and find that out in just a second here. Now, I did just forget to check the finances. Liverpool are still rich. So, have their player sales... This is where I think this is going to be fascinating. This is where I always thought it would be interesting, is how the finances affected the clubs. Now, I just wonder, has Liverpool's sales... They've made a lot of money brought in through player sales. It was what? It was... This year, it was 200 million. Last year, it was 281 million. The year before that, it was 166 million. So, they've been bringing in money... Yes, they've lost a lot of players, but I do just wonder now whether that is going to start and pay off for them a little bit, because their finances are they're still rich, whereas Manchester City, as we saw, weren't. They were down to secure. Now, so much of this is going to depend on, did Manchester City win the Europa League and get back into the Champions League, because that money could make or break them, couldn't it? Let's go down and have a look. And they did win it. They won it 1-0. It was a 15th minute goal from Kevin De Bruyne. Manchester City, a League One club next year, will be back in the Champions League. And that just might be the difference between them continuing to coast into the Premier League, or, sort of not struggling, but sort of leveling out financially and then having to sort of cut their cloth accordingly. They'd still, I would imagine, I still think both teams should be able to get straight back up into the Premier League, no problem. It's just sort of that they won't have world stars, obviously, but they will still have very good players for League One and the Championship. So that'll all be for tomorrow, for next time. I'm not sure how I'm going to release these episodes yet, but that'll be for next time. We'll see how the League One campaign goes on, and of course, Manchester City back in the Champions League. Can they, of course, if they were to win that, or parachute down into the Europa League and then win that again, they would continue to be in the Champions League. And that, as I said, could be the difference between them shooting up through the leagues and keeping a lot of their stars or going out. So we'll be back, as I said, next time. We'll see how they get along in League One. And if you have enjoyed this video, do make sure you hit thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, just discovering it, welcome. And they have some Let's Plays going as well, so don't be afraid to look around. And if you do enjoy what you see, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't upload new episodes. So until next time, I've been Aussie, and thank you so much for watching. Take care.